Welcome back to my channel. As you know, I am Q and I am here to read you chapters 5, 6, and 7, or 4, 5, and 6. I don't even remember, but we're about to get into it. Let's get into it. So excited! Chapter 4, Martine. Saturdays. I had grown accustomed to sleeping in after spending Friday nights making drops for Domenic, but this Saturday, my eyes popped open at exactly 6:37 a.m. I laid in bed, stared at the ceiling for hours, almost as if I was watching how all this crap started. It was almost a year ago when I had just returned home from a very unsuccessful trek through Los Angeles, trying to make it as a singer. I drove to my grandmother's house expecting to find some much-needed peace after months of chaos, but what I found was my older brother Anthony dragging our cousin Sean down the walkway, and my grandmother screaming, and my Aunt Lorraine trying to pull Anthony off of her son. I parked the car and tried to get out at the same time, almost forgot to put it in park. I ran up to my brother. "What's going on?" I asked. He wore a football jersey over his solid frame. If he really wanted to hurt Sean, he could have, but I could tell he was just fed up with whatever foolishness Sean was dishing out. "Glad to see you decided to come back home, Teddy Pendergrass," he joked. My aunt looked like a fly clinging to his body. He gave me the look and I quickly peeled her off of him. Her limbs flailed in the air. "Let me go, don't hurt my baby," she yelled. "I will let you go if you calm down. You know Anthony won't hurt him. Now relax." Eventually she relaxed in my arms, but I didn't let her go until my brother gave his very firm instructions to both of them. Anthony held him in a sleeper hold. He whispered into his small left ear, "Now I'm going to let you go. If you cut up, I will tear your ass up. You got me?" Sean, barely audible, replied yes. My aunt relaxed in my grip. So slowly I released her. She walked up to my brother and scolded him. "You ain't have to do my baby like that." Her framed that of a toy next to my brother. He replied honestly, "He's not a baby. He's a grown-ass man and needs to act like one." Sean turned his lips over as his mother reached for him. "Let's go." "Oh," he waited for Sean to turn around. "You're going to pay back every penny or you'll be seeing your father more than once a month." Sean nodded and we watched him walk away. When we turned to walk to the house, I saw the pain in my grandmother's face, and as the hurt she was feeling still, she said, "I'm so glad to see you, Martin." Her arms were just open, waiting for me. Her fair skin, her youthful looks despite her many years. I walked over to her and she pulled me in closely. "I'm going to cook all your favorites," she said. Anthony grumbled, "I'm here all the time and you don't make any of my favorites." "That's 'cause you're here all the time," she laughed. The table was filled with all my favorites. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, sweet peas, buttered rolls, and in the oven was a fresh aroma of an apple pie. I ate until I was stuffed and my brother sat across from me. We looked a lot alike. He was the older version of me, with slightly kinkier hair and no beard. He waited until our grandmother left the kitchen before he told me that fool, our baby cousin Sean, had been secretly cashing our grandmother's Social Security checks and had gotten her to take out a second mortgage on the house to supposedly put him through producer school. My grandmother was in danger of losing her house. My brother had a family. He couldn't afford to come up with all that money they needed to keep the house. He looked me dead in the eyes and he said, "I know you probably want to get back to Cali to pursue your dream, but I can really use your help." I nodded. "Of course, I'll do my best." Fast forward to this day, this Cuban guy, Ricardo or Ricky, introduced me to a man whom he said will change my life. Little did I know how serious that statement was. Chapter 5, Domenic. In order for my operation to be a huge success, I needed people. 3 kinds of people. The kind that served with blind loyalty, the kind you could trust and get shit done, and finally, the kind that had a need greater than their own purpose. Yo dijo a Ricky. I said, mira, I need a guy someone with a face you can trust, a guy so unsuspecting that no one would ever think he was involved in some shit. Ricky, he had this look on his face like a glow. He already had a person in mind. He gave a side smile and nodded. I think I know a guy. Great. Bring him to me, I said. We shook on it, and later that day, I waited with Ricky at this quiet park. We watched him drive up in this old Honda. I mean, this thing was so old shit. It still had the kind of windows you had to roll up with the little wheel on the door. It was insane. The tires, one was so bald you could see all the metal wires sparking flames and shit as he drove through the parking lot. Okay, maybe it wasn't that bad, but you could tell dude was going to be an excellent candidate on need alone. But would he do it? Ricky seemed to think he was a sure thing. When he stepped out of his car, I will say dude was sharp. He was clean, nice slacks, button-down shirt, some Jase Banks looking shit. I knew because I shopped there myself. Ricky approached him and they shook hands. Then they walked towards me. He checked me out as he approached. This is the man I told you about. This is Domenic, said Ricky as he introduced us. He reached out his hand. I saw his manicured nails. I'm Martin. It's a pleasure to meet you, he said. Likewise, I shook his hand. Originally, I told Ricky that I needed him to be my personal barber. I really just used that as a means to get closer to him, get in his head, see what he was about. After about a month, it became evident that Martin was definitely the kind of person with a need greater than his own purpose. Here he was, this talented singer. Perhaps with the right connections, he could have been the next R&B performer. Yet he chose to put his dreams aside to help take care of his grandmother? This was definitely my kind of guy. I just had to convince him that this thing was exactly what he needed. And what better way to do that than with a friendly gesture? One night after my haircut, I laid a stack of cash on the table as payment. He stared at it, peeled off $30 and said, thanks. I laughed. Nah, man, that's all you. He turned, looked at Ricky, and then back at me. Well, that's one hell of a tip. I can't take that. Come on, man, just take it. You'll hurt my feelings if you don't. Consider it a gift. He hesitated, but I could see it in his eyes. It was that look of relief, like it was exactly what he needed to get back on track. As he put the money inside of his bag, he said, I'll never really ask what it is you do for a living. His face had this schoolboy-like innocence to it. I smiled and looked at Ricky. Should I tell him? Yeah, man, go ahead. Actually a venture capitalist. For a moment, there was silence. It was as if he was trying to picture me in that role. And I know it was slightly hard, but not that far off from my actual profession. I invested funds into emerging pharmaceutical companies looking to increase their profit margins by making products available to existing and potential customers. Seriously? He said with a smile. Yep, I replied. Still, I could tell he wasn't totally convinced, but the money looked good. And rather than press to find out where it really came from, he accepted it blissfully. And when he took it, I knew that I had him.